All right. Well, welcome to the spring kickoff meeting, everyone, for our Ozone Garden Network. We're excited to have so many of you here with us today. It's a nice list, and I heard from a number of folks who couldn't quite make it today, but are happy to still be part of this network and this growing network. To get us started with the day. Oh, and for folks who don't know me, most of you get emails from me. I'm Erica Wright. I'm at the Center for Astrophysics, which is also the home to the Tempo ozone monitoring mission that will be launching next winter. So we'll have lots of exciting updates about that for this network this year for more opportunities to learn about ozone science. And kind of my co-host today is Donica.
Yeah, I can introduce myself really quickly. I'm Donica Lombardazzi. I'm a scientist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, or NCAR. Part of my work looks at the effect of ground level ozone on plants and plant processes. And so I do a lot of science related to ozone damage on plants.
All right. So your hosts for the day, although just also members of this wonderful network. Our schedule for today, we'll go over some garden overviews and updates, showcase some website updates, garden signs, remind everybody about our Moodle, which is just another community of practice beyond our Google group, although I'll remind everybody of that as well. Do some reminders for spring planting, preparing your gardens, getting plants, and then have some time for Q&A. So that's kind of our general idea. So our growing season meetings, we're hoping to have another 4 meetings this year, kind of general meetings. In late May, early June, we'll be reviewing how to ID plant damage. Then in July, we'll be having some guest visitors talk about ozone pollution in general. So some great information to be able to share with your networks, share with your visitors, and maybe some volunteers. In August, we'll do kind of a share fair of garden activities and opportunities to show images from your own gardens in case anybody's not sure about your damage, whether or not it's ozone or something else. And this will really be looking for community input for the August meeting. So if you've got great activities that you've been working on that you want to make sure the rest of the network has access to, this will be a great time to do that. We'll send out a request for that. And then, as always, in September, we'll review winterizing the garden and kind of go over the growing season. Donica, I'll let you kind of take over, and I'll keep.
Yeah. So this basically, we just wanted to highlight that we do have a garden website, and I'll talk a little bit more about that next. But we have an active network of gardens throughout a lot of the US. We have a few gardens in Europe as well. They're not always able to join us for these meetings due to the time differences. But if you have a garden or are planting a new garden, please register your garden on our website. This can be a little hard to find, but on the website, if you look at the quick links tab, which is going to be on the right-hand side, you'll see down at the bottom, there's a garden manager login. And so you'll click on that. And then I think that there's an option underneath the login to say register a new garden. And so that's how you register a new garden. If you are a garden manager and are helping us to collect data, if you log in before you do the data collection, then we'll know that this is, we'll be able to track at least one consistent person monitoring data through time, because this is really a community science project where anybody can help us record data. But if we do have one consistent person collecting data throughout the season, it's helpful to us to get a sense for the consistency throughout that season. So I think those are the reasons why you would want to log in to the website, and we appreciate if you are able and willing to do that. The other thing that I'll say, I know that we're not really talking about data collection today, but the other thing that I will say is that if you're willing to help collect or to collect data this season, it's helpful if you start collecting data as soon as the plants start to emerge, because then we know when they're emerging and how long they've been exposed to the air that could have some ozone in it. So even if you're not seeing visible damage early in the season, it's still helpful for us to have that recording. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Erica.
And I just want to let us know, we now officially, it's not been added yet, but soon we'll have a couple leaves in California. So a nice spread across all of the US, which we're excited about.
Yeah,
We've got
nice
geographic spread.
Yeah, and a few people on the call today, it sounds like, that are planting new gardens. So we're really excited to watch the network grow. So thanks for thanks for joining and planting your gardens. So the other thing that I want to highlight is that we have a website. It is mobile friendly, so people can collect data. It has several different pages. We have the overview page, which is pictured here on the right. And so this is just basic information about the project. We have a training page that helps you or anybody learn how to identify ozone damages or ozone damage and the differences with other types of damage. There's also an image gallery, so you can see photos of damage or of ozone damage on the different types of plants that we have growing in the gardens or other types of damage. There's the data collection website, the data collection site as well. And so this is at the bottom, I have this ozone identification. This is just a screenshot of the data collection process. And so we have a scale from 1 to 6, and you'll see I have examples of the different levels of damage here, but what I like about this is that there are pictures that illustrate how much damage, but then you also have in the corner the score, so that's in red. So for example, in the middle is a score 2, and that means that the leaf is covered by about 1 to 6% of the leaf is covered in damage. So only a little bit of the leaf. And as the score progresses, you get more and more damage. So I think it's easier to have a visual rather than just to have the percentage. And then on one of our other pages, we have visualization. So these are graphs where you can see the data collected at the garden and compared to other gardens in the area in past years. We also do have ozone concentrations that should be on there. I actually haven't checked that part in a little while, but that was one of the updates that we made to the website last year, is the nearest ozone sensor. And I think they put a range on it of about 100 miles. And so if you're 100 miles away from the nearest EPA ozone sensor, you might not actually see ozone concentrations for your garden location, but otherwise you should get the nearest EPA ozone monitor data popping up for your garden location. Eric, I'll hand it back over to you to discuss the garden signs next. You're muted, just so you know.
Sorry, I have my little controls disappear on me and I couldn't get back to them. All right, so over the past year, we've been working on updating some ozone garden signs that will be available to all of you. I'll show you where in a second in the Moodle. I still have to upload them for you. But we have both horizontal and vertical options, so that depending on the layout in your garden, you can get them printed either way. And we have a couple different versions so that, again, we realize that we've got gardens in all sorts of different types of settings that may or may not work. Various versions might work for various sites that you have different types of signage in your space. These are also something you could get printed at your local print shop and have laminated if necessary. So it shouldn't, minimal cost if that's of concern, to bigger costs. There's versions, higher quality res versions for larger gardens that might have some funding to really set up some large signs. And we'll have guides for printing at various price points as well. So those will be available in the Moodle very shortly, which we're looking forward to. And they'll cover garden ozone identification as well as some background information on why we monitor, things of those sorts. And a QR code so that you can get your visitors right to that ozone monitoring as well. So like I said, the signs will be here shortly in our Moodle. This Moodle also has forums to discuss issues. It's really a place to give all of us of the community, we're such a growing community, an opportunity to talk with each other. So it's not just from us, but from all of you to share. We'll have the downloadable resources, things like guides for setting up a garden if you're new to the network, as well as we've got some volunteer manuals, I'm hoping we have some community members out there that have developed activities over the courses of the year. We're hoping to get those on here as well. So if you've got an activity that you run at your garden that you think other sites might want to use, we have places for you to upload that as well. And it's a really great place to ask and answer questions. Like I've mentioned, we're a network of some newbies as well as folks that have had gardens for 5 to 10 years. We love to be able to share that knowledge. So this is a really great place for all of that work. We also have the Google group that you're all now part of that everybody can email to. So if you have a question that it doesn't necessarily need to be answered by myself or Donica, but it's kind of a general garden question, you are more than welcome to use that Google group for us to all talk amongst ourselves. I'll put it in the chat in a little bit because I can't copy it while I'm presenting, but we'll get that in the chat for everybody just to remind you what that email is. Oh, and we'll have slide sets from webinars. The recordings from past webinars are also on here so that if you want to remind yourself of anything, that's all available here. So like I said, some of those things that are in the garden, the setup guide, we've put together a volunteer guide for anybody that might have volunteers working in your gardens. You're welcome to take that. It's an editable guide. So if you've got specific hours that your garden's available to the public, additional materials that you want to add in, that's totally welcome. But it's something you might want to be able to share with a bunch of volunteers. We've got garden signs, we've got ID signs, small little signs you might want to print off and put next to each plant, and a few activity guides. So particularly if you've got young visitors that aren't quite ready to do citizen science at the full capacity, there's some great activities for beginning them and teaching them a little bit about collecting data and understanding what they're looking at, with some help from some of our sites from across the garden. Particularly VLM has been a great contributor, Virginia Living Museum, to these signs and these activities. And we'll put these in the chat afterwards. These are all in that Moodle, but these are some other resources that particularly if you're new to the network and you haven't taken advantage of, that this is a great place to look. There's some activities. So little quick books you might want to read, again, for young visitors, and a number of activities that are really great for supporting. And when I'm done sharing, I'll make sure to put these all in the chat. Donica had to jump off for a real quick second. So she can't keep up with it at the moment. These are all in the Moodle, again, just to support all of that activity around your garden that you might have. And we know that each garden kind of has a different amount of activity going on, depending on where you're at and who you're engaging for audiences. So normally this is Donica's job, but I'll do my best to cover it. She does a better job as our expert here. So garden planning, we've got coneflower and milkweed. I know a number of you already have that growing. These are perennials that will overwinter. So if you had them growing last year, they should return this year. They spread through rhizomes, so underground stems. So if you had one plant last year, you might have a couple more this year. We only have sensitive cultivars, so we don't have resistant cultivars of coneflower and milkweed. So these are we just have those that will show injury. Right now I have seeds. I think I might have some rhizomes to be able to share this year. If anybody wants to, has had trouble with the seeds growing, I'm actually allowed back in my office shortly. So I might be able to collect some from our garden. This is a great opportunity if other members of the garden network have really prolific coneflower milkweed. I know there's some folks that are just getting started and would love to have some to plant. And I can support shipping costs. If anybody has some milkweed or coneflower they're willing to share with the network, you can have that in the chat conversation. We do have potatoes and snap beans, as well as, we don't talk about it as much, tobacco. The snap beans and tobacco are from the USDA. I know some folks, being historical centers, things like that, cultural centers like to include the tobacco. We don't expect everybody to grow every seed. It's all really up to you what you want to grow. Potatoes are in limited numbers, but we can get everybody a singular 1 or 2 potatoes this year if you ask for them. So these have to be replanted every year. And I think we have some more details on that in a second. If you're new to the garden network and you're still setting it up, there's space considerations, and this is all kind of in that guide that you might want to look through. Whether or not you have access to water, making sure that your garden is well watered is important. Ozone injury is not going to show up if your plant isn't watered, or it's going to be more minimal. You won't see it as much. Fencing and soil and nutrients. You don't want to supplement the nutrients too much, and nitrogen. Hopefully Donica will be back in a minute to tell us a little bit about why we don't do that, but that is in the guide as well. So a few details if you're just getting started in planting. If you're planting seeds for coneflower and milkweed, I know I've just gotten some of the seeds out to folks, and I apologize. Last year was a regrowing year for the USDA with all their snap beans, so it took us a little while to get those from them. So most of you will want to stick your seeds in the freezer before you plant them if you're planting coneflower and milkweed from seeds this year. They do require that freezing to grow. And I know many of you are past last frost, although maybe not all. And like I said, I might be able to get some actual plants to you this year. Potatoes should be planted 2 to 3 weeks before last frost, although they can still grow afterwards. That's kind of a general guideline. I've had success growing them, planting them a little later. And then snap beans after last frost. I don't suggest growing tobacco unless you're a unless you know a lot about plants. The tobacco is difficult to grow from seed, and unfortunately we no longer have anybody to grow the tobacco into seedlings for us, so I can send you seeds, but does require being a little bit more of a professional gardening if you're going to try the tobacco. And again, we'll share these slides afterwards with everybody, so if you want to, there's some additional details in these links for what to pay attention to with growing each of these plants. I know many of you have shared your requests. Update. I got some of your plants out to you last week, late last week. Like I said, I just got the snap bean seeds. The rest of them will be going out today. So if you haven't received your seeds by the end of the week, email me and I will make sure to get them to you. If you've not sent your request yet, it's not too late. surveymonkey.com/r/ozone 2022, and I can get you some seeds. Like I said, we've got a ton of new seeds from USDA, which we're very thankful for snap beans and tobacco, and we can get you those. And if you have plants, if anybody's got a really lovely growing set of coneflower milkweed, it would be great to share those. You can dig up some rhizomes and send those, and plants grow really great from the rhizomes. So feel free to either message me if you're willing to share, or you can put it in the chat if you're thinking somebody might be local enough, and I can help with shipping costs if that's necessary. So that's kind of the last of the formal presentation. So I'll stop the share here and kind of open it up for conversation and questions and concerns.